day is going well, whatever time of day you're watching. Uh, I've got a take for you. Some of you are gonna love it, some of you are gonna hate it. Some of you might not even care, which I don't care if you do or not. But here we go. Today I'm gonna talk to you about something that's a little bit controversial, something that makes some people happy, some people that makes people furious, especially wildlife managers. This thing, horse girls, it's going to push your buttons what I'm about to talk about. You're going to hate it so much. But it's something that needs to be addressed. It's something that has gone on for far too long. It's something called the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971. Congress finds and declares that wild free roaming horses and burros are living symbols of the historic and pioneer spirit of the West, that they contribute to the diversity of life forms within the nation and enrich the lives of the American people, and that these horses and burros are fast disappearing from the American scene. It is the policy of Congress that wild free roaming horses and burros shall be protected from capture, branding, harassment, or death. And to accomplish this, they are to be considered in the area where presently found as an integral part of the natural system of the public lands. These are the words of Congress, not mine. I'll be sure to include a link in the description below of this document, which I believe is the official act. Now, there's some things I should probably put out there. They have some definitions. Wild free roaming horses and burros means all unbranded and unclaimed horses and burros on public lands of the United States. Public lands means any land administered by the Secretary of the Interior through the Bureau of Land Management or by the Secretary of Agriculture through the Forest Service. And so, because of this act, we've got tens of thousands, if not even hundreds of thousands, of wild horses, burros, equids, animals in the genus Equus, Latin word for horse. Love that. They're just running around, running amok, and we're letting them run amok because they're protected by this act, which is having negative consequences. According to Eldridge et al. 2020, in his published work in Biological Conservation, Volume 241 of January 2020, the title, Feral Horse Activity Reduces Environmental Quality in Ecosystems Globally. Abstract. Feral horses occur on several continents across a wide range of terrestrial biomes and have marked impacts on ecosystems worldwide. Despite their oft-reported negative impacts on plants and soils, a global synthesis of their effects have not been attempted. Here we present a meta-analysis of the global impacts of feral horses on ecosystem structure, function, and composition using data from 78 studies across 5 continents. 2/3 of these studies were from North America, where we are, and Oceania, 21%. And most studies examined feral horse effects on plants, 58%, and soils, 35%. Feral horse activity reduced environmental quality by 13% overall, and the magnitude of this decline increased with increases in the intensity of horse activity. Feral horse activity strongly reduces measures of ecosystem function by 90% on average, and has variable effects on composition, with measures of composition most strongly increased by 21% at arid sites. There were no overall effects of feral horse activity on ecosystem structure, with insufficient data to assess effects on plant height and cover. We found that feral horse activity had negative effects on soil erosion by 31% on average, and reducing plant biomass and litter cover by 25% and 31% on average respectively. Increases in soil physical properties generally intensified with increasing aridity. Given the generally negative effects of feral horses on ecosystems worldwide, resource managers and governments need to balance the needs of maintaining healthy, functional ecosystems and their biota with social and cultural driven commitments to maintaining free ranging herds of feral horses. Now, in order to do anything about it in the United States, we got to repeal this act. We have to repeal the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971. Because if we don't repeal it, we can't do anything, because it prohibits any sort of culling operations that would need to be done. And honestly, culling is what needs to be done, because these things are just running amok, eating up the vegetation needed to sustain wild populations of deer, elk, pronghorn, you name it. Pick your favorite wildlife species, and think, how is this affected by a horse? You probably don't think directly, probably not at all. But the truth is, horses do have, even if they're indirect consequences, they have consequences that negatively impact a lot of species. And those percentages of reductions in vegetation were not insignificant at all. And so we need to make legislation to repeal this act. And we need to start talking about this. We need to start talking about these negative impacts. A lot of people don't want to hear about it because they love horses. And don't get me wrong, I love horses too. They've done so much for humans throughout human history. And they are indeed a symbol of America and the American West. However, I believe horses have their proper place. I believe that place is within a fence. If we let these things out, if we let these things go wherever they want, eat whatever they want, poop wherever they want, it's going to have consequences. And so we need to talk about this. And it's easier said than done to do something about it. But the truth is, talking about it will really get the ball rolling. And that's true with so many different subjects as well. But here, I'm trying to focus on one thing here. Let me pull up a fact sheet from the National Horse and Burro Rangeland Management Coalition. The biggest cost to the American public is leaving horses and burros on the range because of their long-term negative environmental impacts. However, funding for on-range management continues to decrease. And so we're letting these horses multiply even more. BLM rangelands can support less than 27,000 horses and burros. There are currently more than 72,000 horses and burros on BLM ranges. BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management, just so there's no confusion. Horse populations double every 4 years. More than 46,000 horses and burros in BLM off-range holding facilities. Taxpayers pay about $50 million per year to care for horses and burros in holding. And I might have already addressed this, but these horses and burros are not really wild. They're feral, because they're the descendants of domestic hoofstock, domestic horses and donkey. Yes, members of the genus Equus, Equus caballus and such. And I don't know, this fact sheet, it's a little old, it's about 9 years old now, but between the fiscal years 2012 and 2016, off-range holding costs have increased by $6.5 million. Gatherers and removal spending has decreased by $5 million. Increasing funding for off-range holding fails to address the core issue of rangeland overpopulation. And there have been a variety of studies, and overall, these animals have had a very drastic impact on the environment, especially here in North America. And with that, I do want to say, not all horses out there in the world are destructive. In fact, there is one type of horse left that actually needs protection, and that is called Przewalski's horse. According to Google, Przewalski's horse, also called a Taki, Mongolian wild horse, or Zungarian horse, is a rare and endangered horse originally native to the steppes of Central Asia. It is named after the Russian geographer and explorer Nikolai Przewalski. Scientific name Equus przewalski. And it's actually, I believe, a different species from the domestic horse. This domestic horse says Equus caballus. This is Equus ferus. And so this, of course, lives out in Central Asia, completely different continent. Let's look up its conservation status. It is endangered currently, according to the National Zoo run by the Smithsonian Institute. Critically endangered. Okay. Found in Mongolia are the last truly wild horse. Once thought to be the ancestor to the domestic horse, they are actually distant cousins. Mitochondrial DNA suggests they diverged from a common ancestor 500,000 years ago. Przewalski's horses are often described as small and stocky. They are heavily built with a large head, thick neck, and short legs. They are dun-colored with dark zebra-like erect mane and no forelock. A dark stripe continues from the mane along with the backbone to a dark plumed tail. They have a yellowish white belly and dark lower legs and zebra-like stripes behind their knees. And we'll try to pull up a picture here for you just so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully that works for you there. And this, of course, is different. It's a different species. Right now, there's nothing we can really do except talk about it and donate to conservation efforts out in Central Asia, or even by visiting a zoo that has them on display. But these are the only horses we should really be trying to conserve. And that is why we need to repeal the act known as the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971. Yes, American horses have been a huge part of our culture. They've had a huge role in film, in movies. I'm sure many of you watching or listening have fed a horse. A lot of you were raised with horses. I'm sure most of you love horses. But the fact is, just like humans, horses have a place. And right now, these feral horses are out of place. And so, we need to do something about it. Thank you for listening in. Gang, gang. I'll see you later.